The healthcare dynamic is rapidly changing. Understanding the basic fundamentals related to the business of medicine empowers practitioners to advance their skills in and knowledge of the business aspects of medicine. SMA's Business of Medicine Simplified program explores the essentials of everything from reimbursement and compensation models, insurance and risk management, to practice employment and business finance.
It's estimated nearly 1 out of every 5 medical practices don't have a website, making it harder for patients to find them. Many practices predominantly rely on referrals from colleagues, yet neglect the internet, which is the largest referral engine in the world. As patients more and more look to the internet for help with healthcare decision-making, having a presence, specifically a favorable one, requires help from business specialists in the area of internet marketing. Today we're talking with Robert Martin, owner of Purple Tie Guys, a marketing and design firm in Decatur, Alabama, specializing in marketing medical practices. So Robert, thank you for spending some time with us today.
So I guess to start us off, what's the most common misperception or mistake that practices make when it comes to marketing a medical practice?
They just don't believe they need it. Seriously, so they haven't had to do it for a number of years. I talked to a physician just the other day, and he summed it up really nicely. He said, years ago, all the doctors got together and we brushed shoulders and we exchanged, war stories, and, we passed out business cards and we become friends. And with the internet, a lot of that has changed. So you see the number of patient referrals dwindle because those relationships with those doctors are dwindling. And I think that's probably the biggest misconception is, well, we just don't need it. We have, all of our stuff is coming from referral. Well, why wouldn't you use the internet as the largest referral engine in the world to get referrals? A lot of them just ignore the internet altogether. They're like, well, that's where other people play. Like, that's not my cup of tea. You're not, as a doctor, you're probably not surfing Facebook 8 hours a day. You're seeing patients, hopefully. So that's probably the biggest misconception is just, either they don't need it or they just overlook the internet. They'll spend $2,000 on a billboard downtown Birmingham or downtown Atlanta and not know how to measure that. But they overlook the internet when the cost is so much lower and the barrier to entry is a lot lower.
Oh, that's great. That's a great example. Any other misconceptions you can think of? Misperception?
So I see a lot of medical practices that they'll jump on every social platform that's out there. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to be on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Snapchat and like all these other things. And so they put all this on to an office manager or one of the receptionists, or maybe they hire someone in the office to manage that social media presence. And then suddenly either that person, leaves, or they're like, well, we don't really see the value in it, so we're not going to do it anymore. You go to Facebook right now and look up literally most doctors, and you'll see posts from 2016, 2015, and then they haven't touched it for 3 years. And that same mindset will be like, well, we never get anything from it. Well, you haven't touched it in 3 years. And you also have to know the demographics behind it. If you're going to use the internet for marketing, understand your demographics. If you're let's just say you're a teen, and I work with a lot of dentists and surgeons and things like that. So say you're doing Invisalign for teens. Well, they're probably hanging out on, Instagram, Snapchat, things like that. If you're more of, hey, hip replacement, physical therapy after surgery, things like that, those people are probably hanging out on Facebook. So knowing your demographic and knowing where those people hang out is a huge thing to keep from wasting money and time on the internet. And that's huge in the medical community, is just not understanding spend the money and where to spend the time.
I think that lines up with my thinking that I know Facebook is, my kids tell me that Facebook is for old people. So it's definitely, the lines have been drawn with regards to your target market and the platform that you're after. And it's thinking through a strategy so that you're not blasting everything to every social platform on the internet, but you're targeting it on the ones where your customers are, or your target demographic is. So that's great information. I can totally see that. So what's typical when considering costs to properly market? So given that there's different platforms, and I know that platforms like Facebook have a very robust advertising engine, and other platforms like probably Instagram or Snapchat don't really have quite the tools. What's typical when you kind of look at a budget? I know that there may be nothing typical about it, but talk a little bit about budgeting and what type of dollars people are talking about to do this type of marketing.
The biggest takeaway for budgeting is know the outcome you're looking for. I have a bariatric surgeon that's like, hey, whenever people think about weight loss surgery, I want them to think about me. So it's more of a brand awareness thing, and put me in front of as many people as possible, as opposed to I want somebody to give me their name, email, and phone number, and I want to drive traffic for breast augmentation. That's two totally different outcomes. They're both marketing. And so to really say, what that budget looks like, I've seen people that I personally have clients that are in the $750 a month range up to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It just really depends on the outcome that you're looking for and what platforms you're using. Facebook, for instance, that's your probably 40 to 65 plus range. I'd say more like 30 something to 65 plus. And the marketing dollars you can spend on Facebook is stupid cheap. I mean, incredibly cheap to see thousands and thousands of people with a brand awareness campaign. That you just want people to know you're out there and this is what you do. It's just ridiculous how cheap that can be. Same thing with let's talk about a billboard, for example. If you got a billboard that's stuck out in the country somewhere, you may get that thing for $500 a month. You're probably wasting money on it, but you can get it. You get one in downtown Atlanta, and you're going to pay, $5,000. It's a heavily traveled road. Downtown Atlanta, it's going to cost more money. So that's really the key to that. Whenever you start talking about budgets, the first thing you want to do is figure out what is the outcome I'm looking for. Is it just they know who I am, they know I'm a plastic surgeon, they know I do nose jobs, breast augmentation, things like that, or is it I want somebody that I can have my receptionist or whoever reach out to and say, hey, I noticed you were interested in this, thanks for contacting us, blah, blah, and guiding that to be a patient.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the big thing whenever you start talking about costs to properly market. It really depends on what the goal of that is. I mean, I know that's I kind of feel like it's dodging the question, but at the same time, without having an end goal in mind, the budget really doesn't, make sense.
Well, that's good. That's sort of a two-for response, because you do get some context in the dollars that people are spending on this, but the approach is not so much, how much money do I want to spend? It's more on the strategy. So that's a very good response. So talk a little bit about the type of what would someone expect to see when they start this? Is there sort of a ramp up? Is there instant gratification? Kind of give an idea of what type of traffic or growth or something like that should someone expect to see when they do internet marketing?
Sure. So there's, depending on, again, I hate to be like, well, that's depends, because it's a loaded question. If you do pay-per-click, if you do, let's say, Google Ads, that's instant gratification. You put X number of dollars in, so you spend $100 a day running an ad, that's instant gratification. You're instantly in front of people and they're clicking, and so that's kind of that instant gratification, but it's expensive. Anything that's going to bring you long-term results generally is a little less expensive on the upfront, because it does ramp. It takes time. Let's say I'm a big advocate for search engine optimization. So you spend all this money on a website, and I know you guys do some really awesome things for your members as far as websites concerned, domain names and stuff like that. And I think that's great. Most practices spend thousands on a website, and then they let it sit on like the 4th or 5th page of Google, and it's like having a Ferrari in the garage that you never take out and don't show to anybody. And so it takes time to go from page 4 or 5 to page 1, but that's where 90% of your buying decision happens, is page 1. And here's something that's really funny. On page 1, you would assume that the number 1 position is the money position, right? Like, that's where you're going to make the most money.
Yeah.
Did you know that the number 10 position gets almost as much traffic as the number 1 position?
Really?
And you know why?
No.
Because it is the last option before page 2, and nobody goes to page 2. So they're like, I'm gonna take this last option and pray that it works. So it's funny the way us, as humans, how we process that. It's like, if I can't find the best result on page 1, I'm certainly not going to page 2, because that's too time consuming.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because thinking about my search habits, that's exactly what I do. I don't always pick the number 1 or even number 2. I kind of scroll through the list, and there are times where I'm picking down towards the bottom just because I prefer what it's saying. So it kind of dovetails perfectly in what you're saying, is that it's really getting on the first page, and then really how you craft your message, which goes right back to your strategy.
Here's the thing. We were talking about, this is, how quickly can you expect growth? If you let's say you run a brand awareness campaign, it is proven. It is like, they did studies on this. People need to see your ad an average of 6 to 10 times before they take any action on it. So if you're running a brand awareness campaign, you just want people to know who you are, they're going to have to see you at least maybe 6, maybe 10 times before they remember you and what you do. And so if you're running that on Facebook, and you're seeing, let's take Birmingham for example. You've got what's the population down in Birmingham right now?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll take Huntsville, because I know that. So Huntsville's
there you go.
180,000 people in Huntsville proper, right?
Right.
So if I run an ad and I'm seeing 1,000 people a day, and there's 180,000 people in Huntsville, imagine how long it's going to take for that group of people to see me 10 times.
Yeah.
So if you know ahead of time, okay, these people need to see me 10 times, there's 180,000 people, let's do the math. How much is it going to cost me to be in front of each person in Huntsville on an average of 10 times? And that's where you get your budget from. But here's the thing about budget. You have to make sure that the budget makes sense. It's a lot like the stock market, right? A lot of people lose a lot of money in the stock market because they make, I don't want to say uneducated decisions, but they jump on something that they know nothing about, and they lose some money. Same thing with, internet marketing. If you go at it with just this, wild, wild west attitude, you can lose a lot of money. With the proper tools and the proper thought process and the proper research, you can make just a ton of money in the stock market, right? Same thing with internet marketing. If you spend your dollars wisely, you can easily turn a profit on it. And that's really what I would say is the big thing, is like, yeah, I'm spending money on this, but am I seeing an increase in the number of patients coming through the door? Because it doesn't matter. I'm spending $5,000 on a billboard, and so many people see it. You know why billboards ask you to put your face on it? Because people say, hey, I saw you on your billboard. And then the same guy that sold you the billboard goes, hey, for every one person that says they seen you, there's like 10 more that didn't. And so just imagine how many people are seeing it. And that's their selling technique for it. So again, it's just, understanding and taking the time to do your research before you spend the money, and understanding the outcome that you want that's so important when you start talking about cost and how to properly market the practice online.
Yeah, and I think you also drive home the point there that the ROI can be really short and fast. You can really see a return quickly, and it's measurable. So there's a lot of value in the spend and in the measurable return by having a good strategy. But the strategy is important. So so I'm going to deviate a little bit from my last question. What are some general areas or topics or subject matter that you'll be covering at the meeting this year in November that would entice someone to come to the meeting?
Well, sure. So we're going to talk about how to leverage the internet to become the expert in your field. Because I think that's something that a lot of physicians and medical practices overlook, is the internet has made it incredibly easy to become the expert. You, as a physician, you look at it and you're like, I am the expert in these areas, and I know I'm the expert because I am the expert. I have awards, and I have this, and I have that. The internet's the same way, and it's really changed the dynamics of word of mouth. How many physicians, Randy, have you literally heard say, word of mouth is how my patients find me? Or all of my patients are word of mouth. It's the only advertising that works. In reviews, they did a case study not long ago that said that people take online reviews, so Google reviews, healthgrades.com, vitals.com, all those, they take those as if a close personal friend had recommended the doctor. Let that sink in for a minute. You're talking about somebody they've never met that left a 5-star review. They trust that as well as if a close personal friend said, hey, I really like Dr. Tom. He did a great job on this thing. And so that's what we're going to talk about at the conference, is just how do you leverage that?
Yeah, I was going to say, essentially helping place emphasis on the fact that this is a discipline in and of itself. Having a website is step one to a much bigger strategy that will help you use probably the most efficient, effective marketing tool available that is out there, but it requires a strategy and a plan and someone that can walk you through that.
Absolutely. So your website is your number one marketing tool. That should be the foundation of your marketing. And if you don't mind me giving the spoilers, I will. I'll go through what we're actually going to cover.
Yeah, go ahead.
The number one thing that we're going to cover is obviously your website and how that's your number one marketing tool. We're going to cover Google search, search engine optimization, and pay-per-click advertising. That's Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. We're going to cover all that. We're going to dive in a little deeper on search engine optimization and the benefit of going from, again, taking that Ferrari from the garage and making it a daily driver so people see it. So your website's on page 4. Let's bring it to page 1 so people actually see it and contact your office. We're going to go through that section as well. We're going to go through smartphones and why they're important, because a lot of people don't think about the amount of web searches that happen from your smartphone. And they overlook that mobile friendliness of their website, their ads, everything. How can you market? How did you know that I can push a message straight to your cell phone? Because if your phone goes ding, you're going to answer it. You're going to look at it.
Yeah.
That's better than email marketing. That's better than display ads. That's better than pay-per-click. I mean, if your phone goes off, you're going to look at it. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about social media marketing. We're going to talk about those good reviews and how to get them. And then I'm hoping to have some time for Q&A at the end. But we'll just see how that goes. We may run out of time.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover. So this has been fantastic. This is great information. I think it definitely gets our listeners a taste of which way to go in general in this area and their need to be at the meeting this year. So thanks again for joining us today.
Absolutely, anytime, and thank you for having me.
The SMA Southern Regional Assembly takes place October 31st through November 2nd in Birmingham, Alabama. The theme is the business of medicine simplified. Visit sma.org/assembly for additional information.